Hello everyone, my name is Alex.
And my name is Robert.
And we are your Mugiwara Authority, your source for all things One Piece and One Piece related. The date is June 25th, and Chapter 751, Sabo vs. Admiral Fujitora, just came out. Now, we've been off for, 2 weeks.
I think about 2 weeks, yeah.
So we missed Chapter 750, Aspects of Battle, so we're going to go over both those chapters in this podcast, of course. Would you like to talk a little bit about them, Robert?
Sure. I think I'm going to have to say that I was a little disappointed with 750.
We talked a little bit about this pre-podcast, and we kind of agree that for Oda being off for a few weeks, you don't want to fault him for that, because of course he's sick.
Yeah, we want him to get better and stuff like that.
But goddamn, are you excited for a new One Piece chapter? After 3 weeks of waiting, and it was just okay. It was a decent chapter. It wasn't bad.
It was rather forgettable.
It was a little bit forgettable, I agree.
I mean, I had a bunch of stuff going on the last couple weeks, so obviously that might have played into it a bit. But I honestly had to reread 750 before I even read the new chapter because I didn't know what was going on.
It's one of those chapters that feels so middle of the road to me until the end. There's no denying it ended super, super strong. But before then, there's so much just... whatever. There's so much ho-hum,
It's a little bit of exposition and slapstick comedy.
It's largely that. That's what it was built up on entirely, almost. And it felt... It sort of felt like the kind of thing that could weigh an arc down if there was too much of it. It's just sort of not enough things are really happening and people are talking a lot and stuff. And I understand that this is sort of a complex situation we're in. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that Oda's trying to set up. But at the same time, it just doesn't feel like we're moving very much. It just feels like people are kind of chatting about this and that,
We do have a couple of fights, potential fights being set up, though, that look to be amazing when they actually come to fruition.
Which are?
Well, we have Frankie versus Senior Pink, which might turn out to be a little bit different.
Another thing we talked about prior to starting the podcast, that's one of my favorite visuals and ideas to describing One Piece is this giant baby man suplexing a cyborg in a Speedo, and then a giant explosion in the background. I just fucking... if you want to describe One Piece to somebody...
There's a giant baby man. He suplexed a robot. There's an explosion. No, get over it.
It's that's what you would do to just One Piece is beautiful and emotional, and sometimes it really gets to the heart of things, and sometimes giant baby men suplex cyborgs. and it's great.
So we've got that fight. We've got Zoro versus Pika, which we saw them initially clash. We haven't seen anything significant yet between them. We have Sabo versus Fujitora.
Of course, that's the end of the chapter, and oh my goodness, if you were reading it, just skimming through blah blah blah, the end of that chapter, you go, holy shit! Oh, I'm so excited for this. So that was a great... Oh, you know what? There was a color spread. Did you?
Oh yeah, there was a color spread.
Yeah. Do you think, and this is sort of my opinion, that towards the end of this arc, we're getting a lot of these characters that were from the Colosseum getting more importance and more time on screen or on panel, if you will. And I just feel like they're not as compelling as Oda thinks they are, almost. I don't care about a lot of them as much as I think he wants me to.
I can understand that a little bit. The Funk Brothers, I was actually kind of wondering where they were because I remember them. But
I remember them too. They had a really cool power.
But I don't really know enough of their past to actually care about what happens. I just wanted to know why they weren't down at the bottom with the rest of them.
I think it's their personality to me. It's it doesn't interest me that much. I don't know that much about them, so they're just these characters. I remember them because they have a striking design and a really interesting power. But beyond that, they're not interesting characters. Not yet, at least.
Yeah. Well, going into the end of 751, we kind of had this interesting kind of discussion about their allegiance. So there's a little bit more to them than I think.
Yeah, I'll agree. I just feel Oda introduced so many of these characters during those Colosseum chapters, and then now they're all here again, and it's fun. It's a fun part of the of the arc, but at the same time, I just don't feel like I care that much about all these individuals that much. There's some like Don Shinjao for sure is like he got his time to shine, and I really like him, kind of thing. You know,
we had a flashback for him that kind of explained
Bartolomeo, of course. You know, Rebecca got her time. I feel like these are like the characters that got sort of the most fleshing out during the Colosseum portion of the arc, and to where I care more about them now. But there's also plenty that are just sort of faces in the crowd.
I do have to say though that Jet and Abdullah, for the little bit of time that we've seen them post Colosseum fight, they probably have the most personality out of all of them.
They're like the buggies of this arc. They're filling the buggy role, basically, which is great. And of course, there is the giant, I think, Hadrudin, right, okay, yeah. And almost by virtue of being a giant, it's like I like him, you know? Yeah. Because there's that spread where Luffy knocks him out. Like, that's it. Like, to me, that was so epic that I'll like that guy. He's cool.
And he's still willing to defend the Straw Hat Pirates.
And there's Cavendish, of course. He's another one I would say who's almost on par with the Rebeccas in terms of, like, he's fascinating, you know? But then I feel like there's other just faces in the crowd that I care less about.
Kind of like Blue Gilly and, I'm trying to think right now.
There's the King of Prudence and his man. They're more like interesting concepts than fun characters still to me.
Yeah, it's weird because the King of Prudence, like,
there's a guy with the giant things, you know, on his shoulders, like the boxer.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
Oh, and the guy from the Long Arm tribe.
There's a guy from the Long Arm tribe?
Oh, I'm sorry, the Long Leg tribe.
Yeah, Blue Gilly.
Oh, that's Blue Gilly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man. The King of Prudence, it's one of those things where it's like, we don't know enough about him, but there's these little tidbits of information that Oda gives us that kind of has me a little bit more interested in him and his kingdom and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I feel like the implications of that character are interesting because when they return to toys, that's what we were talking about. Like, what does that mean?
He is a king, and he was turned into a toy, and his entire country forgot about him.
Yeah, that would have been interesting just to see a couple panels of how his country was in mass hysteria. Like, they didn't know what was going on, you know? That would be fascinating.
That would be interesting. There's these little hints that he's had ties to Dressrosa before Doflamingo took over. So his kingdom and King Riku, his family or whatever, they have connections there. So there's these little bits of information that kind of make him a little bit more of a fascinating character. Whereas Blue Gilly and the boxer,
and characters of that like. There's several others.
Yeah, there's others, but like we don't really know that much about them other than their designs, which is cool. But
and their fighting style.
Yeah. It's cool, but at the same time, it's like, I kind of want to know a little bit more about them. I want to care about them a little bit more.
I wonder if that has to, if that's sort of Oda's just way of kind of making the New World feel bigger. Like, we're getting these little ideas from different islands, sort of. Like,
it could be. Yeah. Like, we might be getting introduced to their designs and stuff like that. We might be getting introduced to these characters. There's the possibility that later on down the road, they might play an important role in an arc or something.
So when I was reading 750, there was this panel towards the beginning of the chapter where do you think there's more to Baby 5 than we've been getting so far? Because she goes, like, she doesn't seem upset. She's just looking through her binoculars and she kind of says, so the ones who stopped Lord Pico were the Straw Hats after all. And she just sort of seems interested. Like, I feel like there's kind of more to her than I feel like there's going to be more going on with Baby 5 than we've
She's kind of an interesting character when you look at her, because you look at the Doflamingo pirate crew and stuff. They've killed like all of her fiancés and stuff like that. Whatever.
They need me.
Yeah, stuff like that. So she has a reason to like hate these people, but at the same time, she's still a member. She still cooperates with them.
It's almost like her allegiance is strange.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why is she still there? But in the flashback, she's been there since the beginning. She was very young in the flashback, or at least noticeably younger.
It's one of those things where she's part of it's her family, kind of like how Doflamingo stated previously that like his crew, the executives and stuff, they're his family, and people don't make fun of his family or whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then we have these pages of them like climbing up Robin's arms, and then
she just
then she lets them. And as a Robin fan, I just love when she gets time, but it feels like things that aren't all that interesting almost.
I said this before we started the podcast. It's weird to me how Rebecca addresses her aunt.
Because she calls her Viola?
She just straight up calls her by her given name.
Yeah.
And that's just odd.
Were they close? Did they show them in the flashback being close at all? I mean, Rebecca was really young, right?
She was really young, but I mean, she didn't forget her familial ties or anything if she had any.
Yeah.
Like, she remembers that King Riku's her grandpa.
Is Viola her real name, or is Violet her? Is Violet her kind of name for the family when she was part of the family? What's her real name? I
think it's Viola. I think her name is Viola.
Okay.
And they called her Violet when she was in the family.
Like, I don't love this whole time here where Viola's talking to King Raikou about how she trusts the Straw Hats, but in a way that's really important, I think. Because, again, the Straw Hats have been making ties with people in royalty and at the top of the political spectrum throughout the entire series.
I think it's almost more important that Leo was the one that kind of gave more of the whole... the Straw Hats will follow them for the rest of our lives, or type of thing.
And then this shit with Usopp. Look at him over there, and Usopp's like, "That's the 5-star Usopp." it's so great. And Usopp's just pretending to be all cool. Oh my god, I fucking love Usopp. I love Bartolomeo too. Like, he fucking makes me laugh so much. He's such a fucking creeper.
He's such a fanboy.
Honestly. I think of all the Dressrosa characters so far, he would probably be my favorite to join, just because he's so funny. Like, I would love to see him interact with the Straw Hats more, or even just like a part-time, until the next arc. Kind of like what Kinemon has been doing. You know, like, he's not really a Straw Hat, but he's been hanging around for a while. I wouldn't mind if Bartolomeo did that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I kind of think his interactions with the Straw Hats would be better, just because from what we've seen, they're so hilarious. It's kind of like a representation of, like, the fans of the series.
And just his fucking face, his creepy face that he does. Like, he's like, he like wants to see Luffy. He's upset when he can't see Luffy. Like, it's fucking awesome. I want to see him meet Nami. I'm curious how he'll act. He's such a creeper.
Well, he already, like, when he was getting beaten up by...
I wonder if there's any Straw Hats he doesn't like by reputation for some reason. Like, if he's more on Zoro's side or Sanji's side. Like, we know he likes Zoro, so maybe he doesn't like Sanji that much.
Who knows? Maybe he just likes both of them.
He probably does, but it would be funny if he was like, "Oh, this fucker," you know?
Well, no, I envision that he's in the background, like, when Zoro and Sanji are fighting or whatever. I just imagine him in the background siding with whoever just said something.
That would be so great.
So, like, it's like... what was that, Curly Barrel? Yeah, what he said. Huh, Marimo?
Yeah, Marimo. I think Chopper does that kind of. Like, he just sort of agrees with people sometimes. He's like, yeah, stupid, like, whatever, they're talking shit. Chopper is, like, not that young, but he acts like a 6-year-old. It's great.
He kind of... Well, he's the youngest.
He is the youngest, and he does fill that role. And then, of course, we get Senor Pink suplexing... Oh, my God. Frankie, and it's just great. Like, this is kind of interesting, though. Frankie almost acts like he doesn't know who he is. He says, "Who are you, an enemy?" And he says, "No, a man, my dear boy." Like, that's kind of weird. Like,
really?
Yeah, look, right here.
Show me that real quick.
Yeah. That's right after the suplex.
Did he just, like, suffer a concussion when he got hit in the head?
Oh, shit, maybe. He was pretty beat up. Maybe he never even really got to see Senor Pink. Maybe Senor Pink suplexed him and they just started fucking
him up. Because remember when he first encounters Senor Pink, it was one of those things... shit, what is it that he says? It's his catchphrase thing.
Yeah.
Oh god, what is it?
Oh. Right. He's hard-boiled.
Yeah.
And then the Frankie's
so hard-boiled.
Frankie's like, so hard-boiled.
So
so great.
So he probably he either suffered a concussion or the manga stream translation is off. Because in the Manga Panda translation, it's slightly different.
Okay, I didn't read the Manga Panda one.
Yeah, in the Manga Panda one, Frankie doesn't say that.
And I love the end of this chapter, 750. They're kind of going like, hey, how are all these people breaking through the lines? There's so many Marines down there. There's the Marine Admiral.
How did they make it? Ah! Dillinger's all freaking out.
Dillinger's freaking out. And then Sabo's the one holding them all off. And he says like, oh... Like, you don't know who you're messing with. I need to protect my brother. And then Fujitori's like, who's your brother?
Yeah.
And that's it. And it was a decent chapter, but a fucking strong ending. It was such a strong ending.
Yeah. Going into 751, that part, Sabo's interaction with Fujitora, Oh my god.
Yeah, I told you this before the podcast, but I was up at like 5 a.m. when it came out, and I was like, I'm just going to sleep and I'll read it when I wake up. But oh my god, when I saw Sabo versus Admiral Fujitora as the title, I fucking had to read it. I had to. So what do you think of the cover story? We're starting a new cover story on 751 where there's somebody coming up from the depths, and he is in a bubble, and it says... Back to My Friends. That's the name of the cover story, volume 1 of the cover story. And we agree, it looks sort of...
It kind of looks like a silhouette of Jinbei, which means that we might be seeing him pretty soon.
And it kind of makes the most sense out of anybody I could imagine on Fishman Island. We do know that he wants to come back to the Straw Hats at some point.
Yeah. I think it's just weird that he's in a coated ship. But at the same time, it makes sense, too, because it's like... You don't really want to swim all that way.
Yeah, and I could see, I mean, the Fishman Pirates, or the Sun Pirates, they did have a ship.
Yeah,
I always thought that was kind of strange, like, why do they even need one, really, you know? But, maybe they just enjoy sailing in a ship, you know? I don't know, for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, like, if you think about it, like, yeah, we can walk or whatever, but we don't always like to walk places, we drive and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, it could be one of those things where it's like, yeah, they can swim, they're fast swimmers or whatever, but it's more convenient to take a ship for long distances and stuff like that.
And they could get tired. There's no reason to believe that they could swim indefinitely forever.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean,
really. Do you think there's racial undertones also, maybe, in that they kind of want to be humans? Like
they do.
You know, they want that equality, really.
They want to be recognized at least as equals and not as kind of beasts.
Yeah. Which
is how the world government and the world in general perceives fishmen. But, sorry, going back real quick to 751, the whole thing with Sabo versus Fujitora.
Yeah, that's the start of the chapter. We actually get Bastille attacking, and his men attacking Sabo right away. And, it's just so sexy. Like, he's using his dragon claws. Oh, dude, it's fucking awesome.
It's weird.
Go ahead.
It's weird. For me, the fight wasn't the part that made that encounter... For me, it was... Sabo's reminiscing about Ace's death and his whole allegiance to Luffy. Kind of like...
Yeah, that was a powerful little moment where we saw... I think there was a panel where he's frowning, but in my mind, when I read that, like, if I was the animator for that scene, it would be such a flash of a frown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the slightest hint of fragility in the way he
It was
feels.
just like he frowned, he fixed his hat, and then he was back to normal.
Yeah, exactly.
And then during that brief frown or whatever, he has the flashback or whatever to his reaction to hearing about Ace's death and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would make it very subtle. I think it should be subtle. One Piece isn't really big on subtlety sometimes.
It's not.
But I think that should be a subtle moment. And I love that Fujitora picked up on that.
So
I love how aware Fujitora is. Like, that was really fascinating. Well, okay, I know you're not big on the action part, but to me, the action was pretty sexy.
It was. I'm not saying that it...
He uses his claws, and he crushes Bastille's fucking awesome blade. And then he grabs his head and says he could crush a fucking...
human skull like an eggshell,
like an egg.
steals the mask or whatever, or takes the mask as he dodges... And Bastille's the one that gets hit by Fujitora's attack.
We got the answer to the question, can Fujitora use meteors to destroy Birdcage? And the answer is no. No, Birdcage will slice those meteors into little pieces, which will just cause more chaos. And he's like, oops, sorry.
And they're just like, what was it? You gotta tell us before you use the meteors. I use the meteors. Before! He's just so nonchalant about what he did.
That was probably the most charming moment of Fujitora's time as a character so far. I loved that. That was so funny. That was great. Tell us before I use meteors. That's so great. Yeah, he fucks up Bastille really bad, and then the chapter is called Sabo versus Admiral Fujitora, but they really just clash once, really, at the very last time we see them. But it looks awesome. It
looks amazing.
Total shades of Shanks versus Whitebeard. Just something epic that Oda likes to give us, you know, just like...
I like how Sabo's main weapon is his friggin' pipe.
His pipe that he's had since he's a kid, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I think he needed something like that to really differentiate him from Ace.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of similarities. He's the big brother figure. He kind of even looks a little like Ace with lighter hair. Like, they're, you know, and a scar and a hat.
Yeah.
He doesn't look terribly different. I like Sabo a lot, but he is very much in the mold of Ace. He's very much taking what Ace was... He's taking that part of the story for himself.
He's also changing it, though, a little bit. As he said, he's not so against staying out of Luffy's adventure. And if...
Okay, that's true. Because Ace and Luffy were always about, like, well, they have their own adventures. We don't need to get in.
Whereas Sabo was like, if he needs help, I will be there no matter what.
And just by virtue of being a revolutionary, I think that also makes him quite different. You know, it's a different standing in the world, really. There are revolutionaries, there are people, there are Marines,
there's pirates, stuff like that, yeah.
Then there are just individuals, you know. But in terms of the power struggle, he's on the revolutionary side, and that makes him interesting.
I think also that makes Luffy a lot more of a threat than he was, because we have the number 2 of the revolutionaries saying that he will go to Luffy's side at a moment's notice.
They actually note that in this chapter where they're like, how crazy is this fucking family?
Yeah.
Like, Garb,
commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, and number 2 of the revolutionaries.
Yeah, there's some crazy brothers. They got to the top of the world pretty quick.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
I think Oda is making it pretty clear that Sabo is a couple leagues above Luffy. Like Ace,
he's making Sabo out to be higher than Ace, even.
I would say so. Absolutely. Was Ace Admiral level? That's iffy. That's iffy at best. That's an iffy prospect because
it's pretty iffy because he was defeated rather easily by Blackbeard.
Well, Blackbeard's a motherfucker. But we know he went to a stalemate with Jinbei. So we know he's Jinbei level.
He's on par at least with Shichibukai.
And Jinbei was not really able to hold his own against Akainu. I mean, okay, it's a war. There's a lot of craziness going on. He got
punched through, though. He got punched through.
Well, so did Ace. They're very similar in that way. I guess Jinbei's just more resilient. Yeah, but I would definitely say, I mean, literally, if we're listing characters that are Admiral level, it's a short list, man. And Sabo is on that list now.
He is on that list, yeah. So that kind of makes Dragon a much more dangerous person in my mind.
Oh, yeah. Because there's no way he's a step down from Sabo. There's no way.
Yeah, if we're putting Sabo on Admiral level strength right now, and he's number 2, Dragon, I see him being probably Yonko level.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would have to say that he is Yonko level in terms of strength and influence.
It's almost important. Like, I've heard a lot of YouTube discussion on who's the strongest character, and the talks often revolve around Kaido because he got that title, Shanks, and Dragon. But the whole idea with Dragon, it's like there was no context for how strong he was. It was just an idea. He's the most dangerous man in the world, that kind of thing. Yeah,
but now we get context.
His top underling, who is Sabo, who is fantastically strong. It gives you an idea of how strong Dragon is. He's at least this strong, and probably much stronger.
And I think I also have to throw Blackbeard in that top level strength.
I would say by the end of the series, Blackbeard has to be ranked in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Is he there yet? I kind of don't know. I kind of feel like he's on the same journey as Luffy, where you can't put Luffy in the top 5 or probably top 10 yet, even. But by the end of the series, Luffy should be in the top 5. It would make sense.
Yeah, but I feel like Blackbeard's journey is a little bit different, whereas, like, right now he is very powerful, very strong, so we could put him up there with some of the most powerful people in the world, but I see Endgame him being much more powerful than even some of them.
I would agree. Well, he's already Yonko level. I mean, he is a Yonko, so there's no denying he's a Yonko level, obviously. He's very powerful.
So, like, is he more powerful than Kaido? We don't know. Is he more powerful than Shanks? We don't know yet. But
or Whitebeard, or Prime Whitebeard, which is sort of an idea. We don't really know how strong Whitebeard was.
Well, if we look at Prime Whitebeard and... the whole thing that he clashed with Roger, stuff like that. So we get an idea of Roger's level of strength, too, from that.
Yeah. My guess was always that Whitebeard, his strength hadn't really diminished so much as his ability to keep going. Like, his resilience.
His stamina.
His stamina, exactly. I feel like in small bursts, he's probably as strong as he ever was, really, but only in those small bursts.
Yeah. Which is why he was so easily wounded by Squad.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was like he was taken off guard. It kind of went against his legend almost. Like he's such a badass, and to get wounded in that way,
wounded so easily.
But it was really a bigger picture scene for Oda. It was Oda's way of illustrating what a father figure he was.
Yeah,
because regardless, he embraced his son. Oh, what a beautiful moment that was. It was really good.
It was. Is there anything we're missing right now in 51?
You know what? I'm gonna keep skimming through a little bit. I'm still stuck on this Sabo spread where it was just, you know what? I agree though. This is really beautiful. There's moments where he's talking about how we drank together with him, and there's the little panel of him and Ace and Luffy, and then there's the
brief flashback,
and then there's this little panel. I hardly noticed this honestly, but there's this little panel of Ace's his grave, and then where Sabo left the drinks where he was drinking outside of the grave. And then, the little brief moment of the flashback where there he frowns. So, do you think he's gonna expand on that? Will we actually get more of a flashback? Like, even if it's just a couple pages where we kind of see his reaction to Ace?
I almost don't want that. I feel like this did a very good job of illustrating.
Yeah, we don't need more. I actually agree. I don't think we need more. It was powerful in its way. Okay, and then we got Cavendish, and they're all... This is what I'm talking about. I like these characters, but I don't love them. They're going crazy and causing havoc, but it's kind of secondary to...
How did Luffy make it last?
I kind of don't understand. Well, dude, this island is so fucked up right now.
How did Luffy make it there last?
This island is so kind of hard to wrap your mind around at this point.
I do have to say, though, out of all of the Coliseum characters, Usi is the best.
Usi's pretty great. Usi's pretty great. I love that they keep trying to attack Usi, and Luffy's like, "Hey,
leave him alone!"
And I love, what were their names? Abdullah and...
Jet and Abdullah?
Yeah, okay, so we get the Funk Brothers, and they bring Luffy into the well, and Jet and Abdullah they fall off.
They get hit by the top of the doorway.
and Luffy are kind of like, oh no, they fell off. Whatever.
Oh well.
And then, of course, we're missing something very important, because Doflamingo finally makes his epic return, where he goes in the well. And
is it Doflamingo, though?
That is the question, actually. We don't know. My guess is it's Bon Clay. That's my guess. It's really Bon. He's just fucking with Luffy like he always does.
Or, oh, dude, it could be Kinemon in his disguise.
Oh, shit, it could be Kinemon. I think he changed back, though. He changed back last time we saw him.
Yeah, true.
Because he said, oh, they're attacking me. Because... Well,
so yeah, right now...
I do have to say, though, I really do like these little encounters that we're having, these little bits of dialogue between Luffy and Law, because it really illustrates how different they are. Law is so much the planner and wants to know what they're doing and where they're going, and Luffy's so, seat of his pants. It'll work out, dude.
In the moment.
It'll work
He's
out.
just, so in the moment.
Yeah, if it doesn't work out, we're just gonna die, so whatever.
If it doesn't work out, it'll just work out.
Yeah. And, they got the key to Law's handcuffs, and somehow the Tontada are going to get it to them. Apparently, they'll explain it later. Literally, I don't know if that felt like lazy writing when I read it the first time, but it was sort of just yeah, we'll explain it later. Okay.
You know what? I actually liked that. It was yeah, we'll just don't worry about it.
it's in league with the Tontada's personality, so it's fine. I love this though. You're really in a well. I love that because the landscape is so fucked up that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, they're in a well, and yeah. Doflamingo makes his return, and holy shit, that's awesome. So we got a little bit of Sabo versus Fujitora. We got so much awesome stuff in this chapter. It was a great chapter.
And this is what I was talking about the Funk Brothers right now. We kind of don't know their allegiance at the moment. Just this little brief encounter with Doflamingo, it makes you wonder, were they fed false information? Are they in league with Doflamingo?
Yeah,
it's one of those.
It's
one of those big questions.
Very valid, all very valid. We don't know, and honestly, they didn't seem very important until this moment. But all of a sudden, they do something like this. This is a big moment. Doflamingo's been out. I mean, in real world time, in our time, he's been out for over a month, right? We haven't seen him in a while. So him coming back is a big deal to me, at least. So, and in this way, I mean, Luffy and Law are kind of fucked right now.
They kind of are, yeah.
They're cornered.
I don't know. I think
Law is powerless essentially. And I don't know if Luffy could handle Doflamingo by himself. The little encounter that they had before, he didn't do so well. They have Usi.
I'm going to say this. Usi's going to save the day. Usi's going to turn out to be a Zoan.
What I could see Doflamingo killing Usi, because that could really piss off.
Oh, shit. No.
Yeah, dude.
I don't want it. I don't want it to happen. No, Usi's too awesome.
Usi's awesome, but it's just one of those things. Luffy, like how Android 16 got his head crushed by Cell, you know? I could see that being a similar moment.
I don't really want something like that to happen until later on. More in it seems more in line with an encounter with Blackbeard.
I could see that. And we've talked about that before, how we kind of feel like Blackbeard is going to kill somebody very important. And the general consensus, the name that gets thrown around the most is Shanks, which makes total sense to me. But I feel like there could be other names on the chopping block which are
just as valid.
And honestly scarier to me. I like Shanks a lot, but...
Imagine Brooke.
He's kind of just that character in the background still, you know?
Yeah.
Where if he kills a Straw Hat, Brooke, or Robin, or whoever, well, holy shit, you know?
Yeah. Oh, man. I don't want to talk about that right now. Let's continue talking about the chapter.
Well, that is the end of the chapter. That's where we end off. Where we were both lukewarm on 750, we both loved 751.
Yeah.
And where I have complaints with 750, where it feels like a lot of characters standing around and not doing too much, 751 really...
it kind of improved.
Yeah, maybe that just makes me a fan of silly fighting, but there was a lot of fun silly fighting in this chapter. I really enjoyed it.
Going back to 750, though, I want to say that I think one of the flaws, part of the flaws or whatever that we have with it, like the reason it feels so kind of lukewarm, is because immediately prior to Oda's break, we get this mention of Doflamingo's brother being someone that Law looked up to who was killed by Doflamingo.
Oh, yeah.
So we get that brief little bit of information, and then since he's been back, nothing.
not a word, which is really weird because it seems like the kind of exposition that we're gonna build upon right away. It seems very, very important to what's going on at the moment, but nothing. Like, not a word. Like, I kind of forgot a little bit about that until you brought it up today. I was sort of like, oh yeah, shit, that's a big deal. Like,
I kind of want to say that we might get a little bit more of it next chapter now that Doflamingo's back, but it's one of those things we won't know until we find out.
Reading weekly series is weird because it's like you have to sort of look at it in two ways. You look at it as sort of a complete piece, and then you look at it in real world time, chapter to chapter. Chapter to chapter, it feels sort of like inconsistent storytelling. You know?
But when you look at it and read through it as a whole, it feels a lot more cohesive.
Well, that is the idea, but that's not necessarily true. That's the hope, almost. You know? Yeah. Where, like, and not just One Piece, most series are kind of that way. You know, where you'll read an Ippo chapter and be like, God fucking damn it, that was nothing. But you'll read 10 Ippo chapters and you'll be like, awesome. So
Ippo flows so well, right? And oh my god,
I'm a few chapters.
I'm not gonna say it. I'm just saying they released 2 chapters.
They just did, yeah, today.
And right? oh my god, I read them. Oh my god, I need more.
I love Ippo. I'm just saying, Ippo's definitely one of the series where reading 2 to 5 chapters is a way better experience than reading 1.
Yeah.
Reading 1 is like, god damn it. Like, and reading 10 is like awesome. That's a good feeling. You know, where One Piece I think is a little stronger if you read 2 in a row, but it's still a good series week to week. But again, how we're complaining that we haven't heard about Doflamingo's brother since like
2 chapters ago, it feels like we might get more information.
Yeah, Oda had his break, which was like 3 weeks off, you know,
yeah.
And then we've had 2 chapters of nothing. But if we're reading volume to volume, it's just a few chapters, you know, like it doesn't feel like a big deal.
2 weeks of nothing.
Well, yeah, but like 3 weeks span of no chapter. You know what I mean? Well, like 2 weeks of no chapters, but then if 3 weeks of real time because we had no chapter for 2 weeks, and then another week to get the 3rd chapter. You know, like you know what I mean? So, whatever. I don't want to sound like I'm bitching. I hope Oda's better. The work seems fine.
It seems like I think he's better.
He seems on point. You know. Yeah. I watched this documentary about Jack Kirby and what a fucking workaholic he was, and it reminds me so much of Oda. Like, it kind of scares me a little bit, because I think it might have shortened Kirby's life a little bit, so...
That's interesting, because you also made that comparison about Tezuka.
Yeah, I did. I feel like you want to... When you're talking about Kirby and Tezuka, it's almost like their influence on their medium.
Yeah.
It has to be comparable. I've found one article online about like kind of comparing the two, and that's it. And to me it's it's like you should almost definitely make that comparison. They were doing comics at the same time. Tezuka started almost 10 years after, but they were working at the same time for 30 years. So it's weird to me that those names aren't mentioned
together more often.
Yeah, you know? I mean, maybe the most prolific and important name in Eastern comics and Western comics, I don't feel, and they were working together at the same time. I don't understand why those names aren't mentioned more together.
Yeah.
And honestly, they kind of feel like Eastern and Western versions of one another.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And two of their and the most
striking similarity.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say the most acclaimed work from each man is unfinished, and that's really that's really crazy.
Yeah.
I have Phoenix by Osamu Tezuka, and it went. Well, it's released as 12 volumes, but he died of cancer before he could finish it. And New Gods by Jack Kirby was canceled by DC before he could finish it. And that's his most acclaimed work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which is like actually 4 series running at once. So if you buy the Omnibus series, it's 4 different series that he's writing at one time, and they combine them all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's writing 4 different titles at one time, and drawing and doing everything.
That's crazy.
I read a really interesting thing, though, about... as prolific as Kirby was, his I don't want to get these numbers totally wrong, but it was something like the amount of pages he drew in his career was something like 25,000, where Tezuka drew something like 170,000.
Holy shit!
Yeah. So Kirby's one of the first names people talk about when they say not only was he prolific, but he had a big scope of what he drew. Because people like to talk about his comics like, well, he did Thor, he did the Fantastic Four, he was a big part of building the Marvel Universe, and he was a big part of bringing superhero comics into what they are today, but real fans know that he did romance, that he did westerns, that he did so many genres, and that's why he's also comparable to Tezuka. Tezuka, he didn't just make shonen popular with Astro Boy. He did everything.
Other series,
He did everything. They both had these incredible grand sci-fi epics. You know, it's so fascinating how their careers kind of parallel one another. I really think that's interesting. One of the reasons you could probably say that Tezuka was so much more prolific in terms of page count was that manga is easier to make in a way. You know, there's
I was going to bring that up because Kirby was doing both the line work and the illustration, right? The color.
No, I think there was always other.
Or was it separate?
No, yeah, I've seen a lot of Kirby's pages before they've been colored in.
Okay, like, so he didn't do any of that.
I saw a lot of the inking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, that's it's just a difference in the mindset between East and West. Like, there's always been guys to do that kind of stuff for you, you know?
Okay.
But, yeah, it was fascinating to really kind of think about those two and how they paralleled one another. I almost wonder if they were aware of each other and they ever thought about each other a little bit, you know?
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that...
The world was so much more divided back then.
Yeah.
You know, like today, I almost have a hard time believing that really famous guys who make comics over here don't know about the really famous guys who make comics over there. You know, even if they're not fans, I feel like you would hear about it, you know?
Well, to be completely honest, it's weird to me thinking that really, really famous and well-known like artists and stuff live here.
Like live in this because you're so ingrained in the manga culture and
just because it feels like there's like so many people out there in the world in different countries or whatever that do really amazing work and stuff like that it's weird when I think about how it's the same here in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that I'm more ingrained in like Japanese culture, manga culture, stuff like that. It's just that I'm more familiar with like foreign works than I am with domestic works.
I completely agree. I'm slowly becoming more literate in things that are actually part of my culture, a little bit more immediately part of my culture, because I grew up more fascinated with things outside of my culture.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, look, we're doing a fucking One Piece podcast. Like, One Piece is more important to me than anything, honestly. Like, anything fictional world-wise. Like, there's nothing, like, I could fall in love with Tezuka's work or Kirby's work, but I don't think things are going to be beating One Piece. They just aren't. I'm a huge fan. So like, I think we kind of have a similar mindset in that way. Like, we could name 10 mangaka. I'd be much harder pressed to name 10 comic writers or artists that are from the West. At least working modern day. It would be much more
modern
difficult.
day.
Yeah. If I could, like, talk about Ditko and Sam Romita Sr. and Jr. and Kirby, you know what I mean? Like, if you talk about people that you just have heard about in your life, it's like name 5 film directors, and people say, oh, Steven Spielberg, Alfred Hitchcock, you know what I mean?
Like, stuff like that.
Just names that you have to know those names. Like, you have to have heard of the name before.
Yeah,
you know, it's sort of similar.
Whereas, like, you might not necessarily be as familiar with their work.
Yeah, and I really want to start collecting Kirby stuff. Like, I read the first story of Thor ever. It's the first time I've ever read a Kirby story.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I looked at a lot of his art, and I really like his art, but I never read an actual story from him. And I like Thor, too, so it was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
So would you... Oh... I just made myself slightly sad.
Why? Okay, what were you going to say?
The whole thing about making the comparison between Tezuka and Kirby, and then making a comparison between Kirby and Oda, and the fact that Kirby's work got cancelled, and then Tezuka died before he finished it.
Yeah.
And then I was just like...
They have two opuses that are just... You can read, like, a lot of them. Well, okay, Kirby came back to New Gods, Fourth World. Yeah, because New Gods is part of Fourth World. He came back to Fourth World later on, but it was like 18 years later, and at this point his eyesight was really bad, and he was a different person. I guess he did kind of conclude the series, but it was like so rushed and not that good, honestly. Like, that's what people say, like, don't read it, like, it's not worth it. So, but in the series is where he introduces Darkseid. Like, that's how big a deal it is.
Yeah.
Like, he created Darkseid, and it's part of the Fourth World saga. So, like, holy shit, you know? Apparently, I was reading, Chris Sims has this article on Comics Alliance about it, and he says, like, one of the biggest problems with Fourth World, which he loves, is that DC made Kirby inject Superman into the story. Like, he didn't want to use Superman at all, but to, like, help boost sales a little bit, they made him have Superman be part of the story.
Oh, whoa.
And he really didn't want to. Like, and they even, like, tampered with his art because Superman is so important that there's, like, a house style for the way Superman looks. Like, you can't have, like, your own looking Superman. So there's, like, this picture of Kirby's Superman, and then the way they altered it to make it look like the house style Superman. It's kind of fucked up.
That's not cool.
Yeah. One of the 4 stories that he was writing that made up the Fourth World saga was he was writing the Jimmy Olsen comic. That's why it was kind of easy for him to integrate Superman. But I guess he used him as little as he could. Like, Superman didn't even do much, I guess. He was just sort of a commentator on what was actually happening. Yeah. But I guess the whole idea behind the Fourth World is Darkseid's going to fight his son, Orion. Yeah. Yeah, and DC was pushing to kind of push Orion out of the story and make Superman more prevalent. To, like, Superman and Darkseid would eventually clash, and Kirby wasn't having that.
Good.
Yeah. Kirby sounded like a bad dude. He sounded like a... So, are you saying... Well, I guess what I'm trying to say when I compare Kirby and Oda in terms of, like, their fucking crazy workaholicness is not even necessarily that it shortened Kirby's life. Because I think he lived... I mean, he died in 94. I'm not sure how old he was. I should check that out. But he couldn't do other things. Like, his life was making comics. So much so that he quit driving. People were afraid for him to drive. He quit driving. His wife basically took care of him, and he did comics. Damn. And that reminds me of Oda a little bit. Oda has not left his place and gone home to his family for over 8 months at a time. And he's a millionaire. It fucking blows my mind. He's a millionaire. What is he... Like, I almost... Wow. Yeah, it's really crazy. Like, Kirby had to keep putting food on the table. Oda's a fucking millionaire. And he doesn't go home for 8-9 months at a time. That's really crazy.
I do have to say, though, it kind of explains why he doesn't really want to do another full-length series once he's done.
Fuck yes. Fuck yes. He went from when he was younger, if you read the early SBSs, like volumes like before 20, he was like, oh man, I can't wait to do another series. Yeah. And then now he's like, fuck that. Which is exactly what happened with Toriyama. Early on, if you read the little Q&As that Toriyama did, he was like, man, I can't wait to finish up Dragon Ball. I have an idea for an even better series in mind. And by the end of Dragon Ball, he's like, I am done. I'm going to do little one-shots and that's it. And Oda's doing the exact same thing.
Which kind of almost... It's almost depressing when you think about that, because they have these ideas that, in their mind, are better.
Yeah. And then at least Toriyama. I'm not sure about... I don't think Oda's ever said that, but he early on, he wanted to do a mecha series. Yeah. And fans, myself included...
Well, I love mecha series.
I think me and you have even talked about it. It seems like he might be incorporating some of those ideas into One Piece now.
I just see some straight up Gurren Lagann shit going on later on in the series. He's gonna take out the Frankie Shogun, and he's gonna combine it with the Sunny, and it's gonna be this giant ship robot.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's such a cool idea.
And he's gonna use that to fight
San Juan Wolf. Oh shit,
dude, that would be amazing.
That would be great. So Kirby died when he was 76 in 1994. So I mean, it's not.
It probably took off like 20 years of his life, though.
Potentially. I mean, Stan Lee's still kicking. You know.
Yeah, Stan Lee's still alive. My grandpa's still alive.
Yeah, a lot of guys. Well, I think he might have been a smoker, but he died of cancer, I believe. So, I mean, it did take a hit to his immune system. One thing's for sure, it kind of minimized what he could do in life. He couldn't drive. There were stories where he would be driving with his kids and he would have to pull over because he was thinking about a story. He couldn't stop thinking about the story that he wanted to draw. So he had to quit driving. Like, he couldn't keep driving. And then he started losing his eyesight because of how much he was drawing.
Dude.
I don't...
I know this probably isn't what I should be getting from that, but that's kind of what I want. Is to get to that point where it's like, I can just sit there and think up an entire story.
Dude,
and then...
I totally get that. How fucked up are we? Like, it's sad when you hear somebody almost has like an illness and you're kind of jealous of that brilliance. Like, there are days I spend sitting around doing nothing and I'm like, what the fuck, man? I could push myself so hard and do so much amazing stuff like these amazing creators, you know?
Well, it's weird because I end up in those kind of funks where it's like, I am sitting around doing nothing, but at the same time, I am thinking about something.
Yeah.
So it's like, whether it's that novel story, whatever that I'm writing right now, I'll have these moments where I'm just thinking about it or whatever, and I can't stop thinking about it, but I kind of can't continue it.
That's the problem. It's almost like you have to, even if the work isn't good, just to do it. Just to get it out there, get it out in the ether, in the universe, make it something real that you could look at, and then make it good.
Yeah.
Almost. You know, I'm writing a novel too, and I don't think it's good.
Dude.
But it's something.
I think that you need to finish it.
Oh, I'm going to. My goal...
I think you need to hurry up and finish it so that I can read it.
I almost want you to make the graphic novel version. I feel like that would be really fun because it's so fantastical.
I'm down to it.
It's such a silly looking thing in my head that I'd love to see it out there in the world. You know.
Well, I've already shown you a couple of the character designs too.
I could let you read what I have. It's just I want you to know that it's rough. You know, that's all. We're getting way off topic, but yeah, there's these people.
Well, dude, I think
almost like when you read stories of Mozart, you know, and it's almost like he was autistic, like he was a savant, you know, where it's like he had perfect pitch when he was a 4-year-old. He had perfect pitch before he could talk, literally. Like he knew how to play on the piano and match pitches before he could speak. And
well, that's the whole thing about Beethoven being deaf and having kind of other physical
do you know why he
disabilities
went deaf?
And stuff. No.
His dad beat him in the ears. He would hit him and smack him and whip him in the ears because he wanted him to be as brilliant as Mozart. He compared him to Mozart. He wanted him to be a prodigy like Mozart. Oh, God. Yeah. He actually trained with Mozart. He actually learned under Mozart for a little while.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's just crazy.
I don't understand the logic behind, I want you to be a brilliant musician, and then
I'm going to beat your ears so you go deaf.
What a dumbass.
I know.
But really...
at the same time, though, it kind of helped.
Yeah, and I think it kind of helps the imagery of Mozart. Of Beethoven. It's like there's something romantic about one of the most brilliant musicians and composers of all time being deaf.
Yeah,
right? It's like a piece of poetry almost. It's like a beautiful story. It's almost too beautiful.
It's kind of
real.
Tragic. Yeah.
It's definitely tragic. It's like that whole not X-Files. What's the older one? Twilight Zone episode where like the guy wants to read forever, but then
everybody's gone, so he finally has time to read. But then his glasses break.
His glasses break. It's like a beautiful tragedy.
Yeah,
very similar.
Oh, I can still read the fine print. Oh, I can still read Braille.
Where was that from? Was that Futurama? My eyesight isn't that bad, but his eyes fall out.
Yeah. Oh, I can still read Braille, and he loses his hands, just starts screaming, just falls apart.
Oh, it's so stupid.
But I mean, yeah, like I think it's. I know you were saying like it's off topic, but I think it's perfectly on topic because it's like.
Well, we're talking about my story. If we're talking about Kirby, and we're talking about these incredible creators who have this giant world in their head, and they illustrate it and make it something beautiful, that's very in topic. Because to me, those are a special breed of human beings, and Oda is one of them. He's definitely in that ilk.
But I mean, like our creation, our ideas, wanting to create stories and stuff like that. It's influenced by all of these literary greats.
Yeah, absolutely. It's why I'm falling in love with almost the idea of Jack Kirby more than anything, because I fall in love with people who have amazing imaginations. Just the idea, like literally like 10 months ago or something, I just started reading all of Roald Dahl's books because they're this really simple idea that he makes the beautiful little stories out of.
Yeah.
Like they're not high fantasy, they're not epics in any way. They're almost like just a little idea of a fantasy that he makes beautiful little stories out of. And
it's just kind of like a little touch of fantasy.
Like I didn't know that he was responsible for so many of these stories that I had heard throughout my
James and the Giant Peach.
James and the Giant Peach. Oh, Matilda. Like there's so many of them. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna read these, and I love his writing. I think it's so fun.
I love James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah, it's great. So, like, I love people who have incredible imaginations. So. Yeah, Jack Kirby's my new thing right now. I'm going to be into Jack Kirby for a few months at least, collecting a lot of his shit. It's going to be great.
It will be great.
Yeah, it's expensive though. Expensive. Like,
well, that's kind of how
manga's cheaper. Honestly, it's a
that's
cheaper
kind of
hobby.
how American comics is. It's kind of an expensive hobby to get into.
For sure. I mean, even what I do have, it runs me some money for sure.
Like, dude, I barely had money to buy this month's issue of Batman.
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah, $4 a pop. That's kind of pricey.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I've never. How do you? Okay, this is a really silly question. It's going to make me sound very not smart. But I've never followed a series that way, like issue to issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Jason Aaron's current run of Thor. I think it's so good that I really want to follow it issue to issue, but I don't even know what to do. Like, do you sign up online and they send you the issues, or how do you do that? Because we don't have, I should say we don't have a comic book store around us, and our Barnes & Noble doesn't carry Marvel, so
which is depressing, because it used to.
Yeah, so...
I think you can sign up to have it delivered.
So is that how you get Batman? Do you get it at Barnes & Noble?
I get it at Barnes & Noble. I go and check in every month, every couple weeks.
You know what I started reading there? I read the first volume of the New 52 Aquaman. I don't know why I wanted to read that, but I did, and I thought it was fun. It was a fun book. Fucking Aquaman is fun. I don't care.
Well, yeah, he's kind of a fun character.
Yeah, he was fun. It was
fun. I know people kind of make fun of him or whatever for his powers or whatever, but he's still a good character.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was very much kind of thumbing its nose at all those people who make fun of him.
Yes.
Like that's almost what defines Aquaman now. Is like, well,
he's
fuck
like,
you. I'm
you.
cool.
Yeah.
I don't care if you don't think I'm cool. I'm cool. Like that's what defines Aquaman at this point.
I have this image saved on my phone. It's like an Aquaman meme or whatever. Aquaman's stupid, they said. His powers are stupid, they said, as he's summoning like an army of sharks.
Oh yeah, there's like orcas and shit eating aliens. That's great. Yeah. Well, he's cool in the New 52, but yeah, it just seems it's almost like kind of childish to me, like how much that's what the story is about. But it was a really fun read. I read the whole first book. It was really fun. So I'm sorry, we were on. Okay, so you buy Batman week to week month to month at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
Do you get the main title? Do you get Scott Snyder's Batman?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. How would you go about? Do you know more about this than I do? How would I go about following Jason Aaron's Thor run? It's Thor: The God of Thunder. If anybody wants to check it out, holy shit, it's awesome.
I believe that there's a way you can order it, like sign up for some kind of program. I don't know really. One of the alternatives is you can buy them on eBay. You can because I know there's some runs or whatever that you can actually pre-order issues because the eBay seller is actually a comic book store.
Yeah.
So you could probably buy them that way through like an eBay comic shop. Or the only other thing I can think of is that you would have to drive to whatever the nearest comic book store is, which I believe is down the hill.
Yeah.
So it would basically be like, I'm only making this trip once a month.
Well, if I was following a few series, that would be worth it. And I've enjoyed what I've read of All New X-Men.
Well, I mean, like depending on the shop, you could probably find Chew.
That's true. And I like Chew enough to where I'd probably want to start following it month to month, but it's one of the few. So
Chew, Thor. Yeah.
What's it called? What's it called when you have like a few? It's called a pull list, right? Is that what it's called?
I believe.
Yeah, you have a pull list, and it's like you just tell the guys running the shop, like, hey, these are the titles I want you to hold for me every month, and you just come back and pick up your titles.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be cool. I've never followed a comic month to month in my life. Like, so that'd be interesting. I couldn't even do it with manga, though. Like, I caught up to Claymore. I caught up to a couple monthly series, and then I would just lose track. It's harder for me to keep track of a monthly manga series, at least.
Yeah. Well, that's also because...
Like, by the time the new Claymore was out, I would want to read the last chapter or two, just to kind of be like, wait, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Claymore might be a bad example, though, because the art is so minimalistic, and the storytelling, you know what I mean? Like, I think if I ever did catch up to Berserk, which I love, I'm not saying I don't love Berserk. I love Berserk. But I'm not cut up. If I did catch up, I think it would be a lot easier to keep in my mind where the hell I was last time, you know? So, it's probably more similar to an American comic in that way, almost, I would say.
Kind of, yeah. Well,
I mean, there's definitely European sensibilities
weird
in the art.
It's weird because it's...
That guy's gonna die, too. Miura?
Oh, man. You're making me sad, man.
The stories about that guy are horrific. He never stops drawing. I'm really scared for some of these mangaka and comic creators that I've heard of. Like, I've heard some horrible stories about that guy. I hope he's okay. Berserk is a masterpiece. I just hope he's okay.
I know it's almost messed up because I'm not even saying like I hope he's okay. I'm saying I hope he finishes it before he dies.
It's sad because you don't want to say that out loud almost, but you think it. You know, I think about Oda too. Like, I love Oda as an individual. He seems like a great guy. You know, in the SBS and all the interviews I've read.
I wouldn't wish any harm on either of them and stuff like that. But I
really
want them to finish.
If One Piece doesn't finish properly, like, fuck, dude. Like, I can't think of somebody I'd want to take over One Piece. It wouldn't be One Piece. It would be right. It would be some.
I mean, like, I could maybe imagine like Toriyama taking over, but at the same time,
Toriyama is not the storyteller that Oda is. I love
Toriyama.
Yeah,
it's almost like Oda would have to have an outline of events that Toriyama would have to draw from.
I would almost pick a different artist. The chapter of Bardock, I think his art, I just don't think he's as good as he used to be, you know?
Well, he's taken, like, really long hiatuses.
And that's fine, you know? I'm just saying I don't think he is what he once was.
Yeah.
I would almost pick Hiro Mashima as in terms of just an artist. No input, no input as a storyteller, but just as an artist, I think he would be great. Oh no, fuck that! The guy who did Barrage and
yes,
oh my
god, that guy.
I guess Shimabukuro from Toriko, he would work. Those would probably be my best choices. The guy who did Omagadoki Dobutsuen, or the guy who does Toriko. Those are the ones that make the most sense to me.
Yeah,
Mashima is good at kind of. He's a good artist. I've always thought he was a good artist. He's just a horrible storyteller. So
yeah,
yeah, he would be good though, but it wouldn't be One Piece still. Like, unless you're right, unless Oda like outlined a lot of the story going forward, and
he would need an outline, and then whoever took over, they would have to be drawing from that. Like, that's just how that's the only way that it could be One Piece.
You know what? Getting on Omagadoki Dobutsuen is really funny, because it's a good segue into what I wanted to talk to you about a little bit during this podcast, and that is we touched on it just a little before, but that empty feeling you get when you're done with a series, when you're done with a manga or a comic series or a book even, or a fucking TV series, anything really.
Yeah.
Like we almost started talking about it. Kind of go into that a little bit. Like, that feeling you get, you know, that thing of emptiness. Like, give me an example of a series or anything, really.
Okay, well, I don't know, there's a few where it's like, I've read through the entire series, or I've watched the entire series, and then at the end, it's just like, you don't know what to do with yourself. You were so, like, the story was so good that you were so enveloped in the story, it kind of consumed you. And now that it's completed, finished, done, over, and all that stuff, it's just like, I don't know what to do anymore.
And it's almost like it consumes that part of your life.
It's like you care so much about the story that it hurts when it's over.
Yeah. Or even when you catch up. Like, I was reading Ippo Hajime no Ippo so furiously for a little while there. Then once I caught up, I was like, you know, and then new chapters would come out, and it's not enough. Yeah. It's just like, what? Like, I would read 5, 10, 15, 20 chapters in a sitting easily. Because that's the way Ippo reads, really. And then when you get one chapter, it feels like a slap in the face. Like, it was nothing.
That was like a page.
Pages.
That was a page.
Yeah.
That was really just a page.
So, like, what's the series that stands out to you right off the top of your head that has given you that empty feeling?
Well, one of the series was Full Metal Alchemist when that ended, because I started reading it monthly.
Yeah,
like about halfway through.
I never had the honor, though I would have loved to.
Like I started reading it monthly, so that entire last arc I read month to month, and when it was over, I was just like, it hurt. It made me like legitimately depressed that it was over, because it's like I'd watched that series from beginning to end. I read it, and then about like, you know, halfway through or whatever, I started reading it month to month. So for a long period of time, like I was growing up with that series, and then for it to end, it was like a part of my life just ended.
Do you think she could come back to it? Like, I think as a piece of storytelling, one of the few series that could challenge One Piece in terms of a piece of storytelling in kind of in the genre of adventure, battle shonen, whatever you'd like to call it, would be, or is, Full Metal Alchemist already. It doesn't need more. Like, what it is so incredible.
Yeah.
But do you think she could come back to it and keep the story going as strong as it was?
It's one of those things. It's one of those things where, yes, I felt empty or sad, depressed or whatever once it ended. But looking back on it or whatever, I don't think it needs more. Like, I almost feel like adding to it would kind of
take something away from it.
Take away from it. Like, there's some series where it's like, yeah, you can add to it. You can add to the series or whatever. You can improve upon it or expand the universe and stuff like that. But there's other series that they're such a self-contained and involved story that to add to it would diminish what already exists.
It's almost like a song, a really good song that you're really enjoying for the first 4 minutes, but then it has 2 minutes of bullshit filler at the end.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, well, that kind of takes away from that song. Like, it's a good song, but then it just kind of like drones on at the end, you know?
Yeah.
And kind of ruins what was so good about that song. If she came back with something, I mean, you know what, you're right. Like, I don't need to know more of their story.
Yeah.
The story of Edward and Al and Ed Elric is so good already. Like, I don't need more than that.
If you wanted to do another story,
yeah, it's a 27 volume, which is long, but not so long. 27 volumes of just lean, amazing shonen storytelling. It's about as good a series as you are ever going to get in that group of story. In that type of genre, that subgenre of shonen, you really can't beat that.
Yeah,
you really can't beat it. There's nothing. Like, I love Dragon Ball. I love One Piece. I love Toriko. Like, you love Naruto and Bleach, and those are great series too. I don't really have a big opinion either way on those, you know? I mean, okay, well, what are your opinions? Okay, fuck it. Okay. What I'm saying is, there's really nothing better than Full Metal Alchemist. Even if things are as good, and in my opinion, One Piece is as good or better, Full Metal Alchemist is objectively as good or better than One Piece. It's so good. It's amazing. It's a beautiful story for 27 volumes. It's beautiful. You follow Bleach and Naruto week to week. I only watched and read about 100 chapters of each of those series, and I liked them, but I didn't like them enough to continue. So, do you think they're kind of middle of the road? I mentioned their names, and you kind of said like, eh. So
I enjoy them. They're enjoyable. But if I wanted to,
so if you're ranking the top tier of like battle adventure shonens, they wouldn't hit your top 3 or 4 or 5.
No.
Okay.
Like, if I'm being completely honest, parts of each of them hit that, like,
the beginning of Naruto.
Excellent. Yeah, the beginning of
honestly, the first few volumes of Naruto is as strong as any shonen series in the beginning. It's a stronger start than One Piece. Yeah. It's a comparable start to Full Metal Alchemist. It's as good as it gets. It's amazing.
Basically pre-time skip Naruto.
That Zabuza arc, that little Zabuza arc,
that was amazing.
Is how you say his name, Zabuza?
Zabuza, yeah.
That is, it blew my mind, and I think I almost cried. It was so beautiful, and it's so early on.
I had tears welling up when
it was for a shonen arc to be that good that early on into a series, it fucking blew my mind. Like,
yeah.
So I think Naruto starts out brilliantly. Like,
yeah.
It hits the ground running.
Basically, they both have their high points, but they don't have consistent like highs
on the level of
like you look at One Piece or whatever, like
if you compared it to Hunter x Hunter, it wouldn't be that good. Like,
no,
Hunter x Hunter is very consistent.
There's no way that
okay,
either of those could be compared to Hunter x Hunter.
I love Hunter x Hunter. I just people love to bash Bleach and Naruto, and I'm a big part of the One Piece community, Arlong Park, the forums, and those guys bash the shit out of those two series, but I don't, because I didn't get that involved in either of them, you know. Like, yeah. I kind of feel like I don't have a voice, because you know, if a TV series runs for 100 episodes, you can't watch the first 15 episodes and go fucking hate, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you only know as much as you know, and what I do know is they're pretty solid, they're pretty okay, you know? Naruto is better. Bleach to me always felt just good. Like, even
it was one of those things where, like,
even the Soul Society arc, which everybody says is like, oh, you'll love it, was good. I liked it, but it didn't blow my mind. It was
right.
Good. It was good. That's how I always felt.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, if you look at it objectively, they're both good series. They both have their moments of excellence, but they have enough shortcomings that it lowers the quality of the series.
Like, you wouldn't put them on par with the Full Metal Alchemist, or
I wouldn't put them on par with Full Metal Alchemist or Hunter x Hunter or One Piece. Like, I'm gonna be sad when they're over, because I've been following them like almost from the beginning.
And it's weird that way. That's something really kind of beautiful about manga, like shonen manga, is you kind of grow up with these characters.
Yeah,
you know.
So it's like I'm reading it. I'm not gonna bash them. I'm not gonna bash the series or whatever just because it's like, oh, this particular part of the series isn't as great as this part of the series or whatever. It's one of those things where I grew up with it, so it's kind of like I have this kind of nostalgia for the characters, and I can appreciate what's good about the series while acknowledging that they have their flaws.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, all series are going to have their flaws. Like, no series is going to be perfect. Like, if we look at it just strictly objectively, like...
objectively, of course. There's faults in literally every series. But
like, even Hunter x Hunter, which we could probably say is closest to being the perfect...
I would say Full Metal Alchemist is the most solid...
Well, long-running. Like,
well, it's not much longer. It's like 32 volumes, 33 volumes.
But it's still going.
It's ongoing, yes.
Yeah.
But it's still not much longer, really, compared to Full Metal Alchemist.
So if I'm saying, like, ongoing series or whatever.
Okay.
Like, which we could say Hunter x Hunter
you mean presently still running?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So if we say, like, ongoing series or whatever, we could say Hunter x Hunter is probably the best series ongoing at the moment. Like, I'm
very biased. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a very biased One Piece fan, but if you're trying to add a level of objectivity, yeah, I could see where you're...
we could say that it's the best, but at the same time, we're looking at it objectively. It has its flaws. Like, there are times when the art suffers.
Oh yeah.
That's
one of the most noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, it has amazing storytelling, amazing, like, fights, choreography, all that stuff,
and a fighting system. Like, it's something that is it's levels above One Piece in that way. Where One Piece, it's almost, it's not fairy tale level, you know? But it is often about the emotion of what they're doing that gets them through the fight. Where it's closer to
almost it's almost closer to reality in the sense of Hunter x Hunter.
I want to compare it to early Naruto. And
could be that
I've
too.
Heard it. I can't say for myself, but I've heard it compared to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure quite often. Also,
I still need to read that.
Yeah, I've read the first series.
Well, I think there's I don't know if it's ongoing or if it's
still going.
Is it ongoing?
Yeah,
they have those episodes up, so I want to start watching that, but I'll probably wait until after I'm finished.
I can't find good scans of it. That's my problem. I really want to read JoJo, but I have a hard time finding the scans.
That's why I want to watch it, just because, like you were saying, that it's so hard to find quality scans.
Yeah, it's a bitch, man. It's a bitch, and they released the third series over here, but that's all out of print, so you can't buy it. So it's fucking. It's a series I really want to like, but I just have a hard time finding the material.
Yeah, that's why I'm more in line to, like, I'm gonna watch it eventually.
I think Hunter x Hunter sometimes the exposition is so heavy
That too. So like we could look at it and say
it's good, but it takes away the enjoyment. Like just the pure kind of joy I get from some shonen series, it kind of diminishes it a little bit. Sometimes I feel like it got away from the spirit of the early series too much. The idea of hunters
and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's moved away from that a lot in a way. A lot of people
actually getting a lot closer to it now.
I haven't read the new chapter. And a lot of people, this isn't my view, but a lot of people think that there's a stylistic and tonal difference from everything else before the Chimera Ant arc, and that was like a big step into like a Dragon Ball territory.
We could say that, but at the same time, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but it's so much better than, like, say, a Dragon Ball Z arc. Like, if we compare, like, the transition between Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z, there's a noticeable difference and stuff like that. But you could argue that the story in Dragon Ball was a lot better than the story in Dragon Ball Z. You could say that, like, it became a lot more formulaic in the later portion of the series.
You could absolutely argue that.
Whereas you look at Hunter x Hunter, yeah, there kind of is a big difference between like what's going on and stuff like that. But it's so well written.
I would say
that we can't really, and also it's really they're kind of marking that as the dividing line.
Yeah.
We can't really say anything about it yet because we're really only on the second arc since that dividing line.
Yeah. I think where you might get hate by a general fandom by saying that Chimera Ant arc is better than the latter Z portion of Dragon Ball, I think that's crazy because that arc it's a shining pearl. It's amazing.
It's such a beautiful arc.
It's one of the best shonen arcs ever. I think it's one of the best ever. Like, it has everything. It's such a great arc. It's when
it has such a beautiful end.
Not this current run with Togashi, but the last run where he was back, a couple years ago. It was the only time I got to read Hunter x Hunter weekly until now. But I was reading it weekly back then, and it was the best stuff week to week. It was better than One Piece. It was better than whatever the fuck I was reading. It was the best. I mean, I think One Piece was during Fishman Island. So
which kind of it lagged a little.
Yeah. But also that was the end of the Chimera Ant arc, which was, oh my god,
so beautiful.
Oh my god! Like a lot of people like to shit on King or Miriam, whatever you like to call him, because of his
resemblance to like Frieza and Cell,
to a Frieza Cell, yeah, like almost an homage to those characters. But what a better character!
He has a lot more personality.
I mean.
And he goes through an amazing period of growth.
As far as an antagonist in a shonen series, a battle shonen, I'm hard-pressed to think of a single better one, almost. He's that good.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Like, he's really, really phenomenal. And not just because he looks cool, and not just because he's really strong, yes and yes, but because he's a fucking amazing character. We see this thing go from, like, just incredible growth from, like, what he was.
Child's arrogant kind of horrible person being thing.
Togashi, for all the hate that he gets for his art, when he really wants to like get an emotion through, the King was so scary with that grin when he would kill things, and then I was so emotional when he died. Like, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love Crocodile. I love Frieza. I love a lot of shonen villains, but they're all so flat compared to Miriam. You know,
that last moment, his death scene, the death scene or whatever with, her name starts with a P. I forgot her name.
We're horrible fans. I don't remember.
It makes me sad. Well, it's been a long time since I've read it too.
Me too. It's been years. I don't think I've read it since that actually happened.
It was great.
I want to reread Hunter x Hunter. That's how, like, just talking about it. Oh, fuck, man, that was so good.
But yeah, that scene, that's one of the few scenes that it has actually brought me to tears. Like, I wasn't bawling or crying or anything, but I was definitely... My eyes were definitely teared up. They were dripping down my cheeks and everything or whatever. It was an emotional scene.
You know the series that I cried at when I was catching up to a couple times, and it surprised the fuck out of me from just looking at it... just looking at the style and looking at like what the series I thought it was going to be like. Kenichi. I cried like twice reading Kenichi. I don't even really remember why, but
I remember the exact moment why I did.
Okay, why?
It was Apachai when we thought he died.
Oh, yeah. Well, I knew he was going to survive, I think, so that kind of ruined it for me.
I didn't.
Okay.
I saw what happened, and I was just like, no!
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Like, it was such a beautiful scene to me when it happened, and I was just like, oh, it hurts so much.
I wonder if I'll cry when if Ippo becomes the world champion. You know? Or when Luffy becomes... Like, we were talking...
I don't think I'll cry, but I'll celebrate. But when the series ends and it's over and done, I think I'll have all that nostalgic emotions that are kind of messing with my mind.
That's losing a friend, man. Like, it's almost... Like, fuck, there's some series I wish I started way earlier. Like, I wish I was a 10-year-old reading Ippo, because Ippo was going strong when I was a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I don't know if scans were even a thing back then, but...
I don't know, I think they were.
It was 99 when I was 10, so...
They probably were, but we were really young.
Even if they were probably shitty scans, and my computer at the time probably would not have done a good job letting me read it.
That's a series that I wouldn't mind them bringing over, though.
Oh, fuck yes.
I would buy the entire thing.
Yeah, we've talked about it. Like, they should release it in bulk. Just release 20 volumes per box, and just let us buy it all.
Well, I don't care about anybody else. Just release a volume every payday for me.
I'm that way with Kenichi, too, man. Bring them both over. I'd love to own those. They're really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about series that made us sort of feel empty when we were done. I read Omagadoki Dobutsuen a couple years ago.
When I found out that it was canceled,
yeah,
that made me just...
It's really short. What is it, 32 chapters?
Something like that, yeah.
It's really short, and it's not even... It's great, but it's almost like you could feel the potential. And the fact that he never got to tell that story kills me. It's like...
It makes me so sad.
Like how we're talking about all these great series, I think it could have cracked the top 5, you know?
It could have been up there along with Hunter x Hunter and One Piece. Like, it...
At best. But I feel like where he would have landed is like Toriko level, which is really high for me. I love Toriko.
I still think Toriko's probably up there, too.
Yeah, to me it's top 5. Like,
but like, I feel... I know you're comparing it a little bit more to Toriko or whatever, but like... We look at Hunter x Hunter and One Piece, they're two completely different beasts, but they're still these, like, grand adventures and stuff.
Are you saying Toriko isn't?
Well, I'm not even... It's just an entirely different beast.
I would say Toriko is more in line with One Piece in terms of a grand adventure compared to Hunter x Hunter.
No, I mean, but I'm saying, like, in terms of, like, grand adventure kind of complexity and stuff like that, I kind of... If it could have continued...
It was there, right?
Come on!
All the potential was there for this amazing series. You know, I can't remember the creator's name. If you could grab Barrage right there, we could give this guy credit so people will know who the hell we're talking about.
I definitely...
It's right there under Attack on Titan. It's like by Dragon Ball. By Dragon Ball Viz Big 9. Yeah.
Oh, right there.
Yeah. It's the bottom one. It's like where your thumb is.
I cannot see it.
Oh, you had your thumb on it right a second ago, man. You had your hand on a stack of books.
Oh,
yeah, right there.
Oh,
bottom, right there.
Koei Horikoshi.
Koei Horikoshi.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that was his second series. He did Barrage, or in Japan, I believe it was called Sensei no Bulge. And it was solid, and it got canceled very early also. To me, it didn't quite have... The art was even a little bit better, but...
It didn't have the same fun feel to...
Yeah, I feel like he wanted to be more safe. Like, he wanted to write something that he thought would do well, almost more than he wanted to write something that he really wanted to write.
Yeah.
So, Omagadoki Dobutsuen, or Zoo, or Omagadoki Zoo, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it was... it felt like something that could have been so great, and it just never had the chance.
I almost feel that he's kind of a victim of circumstance. Like, he tried to release it around the same time as, like, you know, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, these popular series were running strong. So, he kind of, you know, he had some stiff competition with that.
He certainly did, but you don't necessarily need to beat those guys to make it, though, or at least to hang around for a while. Yeah. I feel like his series just never had a chance to catch on, almost. You know, both of them didn't make it to 40 chapters. Neither of them made it to 40 chapters. That's crazy.
I could care less about Barrage, though.
Well, you haven't even tried it. It's solid. It's not as good, but it's solid. Like, it could have gone someplace good, but it just wasn't... Like, it had some really good ideas and some beautiful visuals. But I wanted to say earlier about him... I just
want him to continue.
What I wanted to say earlier about him was that he cites Oda as one of his heroes.
Oh, he does?
Which I think is fascinating because I kind of see
kind of a similarity in the playfulness.
Kind of the line of these amazing shonen creators giving birth to the next amazing shonen creators. You see Tezuka, and then Toriyama talks about Tezuka, and then you see Oda, and Oda talks about Toriyama, and now you see this guy, and he's talking about Oda, and I think that's fucking amazing. I love being able to kind of trace that, you know. And will he be brilliant? Like, we don't know yet because he hasn't got a chance to make a series that people will give him a chance with.
To be completely honest, I think once I know you're saying like, you know, he doesn't need all that in order to, you know, succeed. He doesn't need to necessarily compete with them in order to do well. But
early chapters, I'm saying. If you get to 200 and you've never like Toriko was beating Bleach week after week after week, and that made people go like, "Hey, why isn't Toriko in the top 3? Like, why isn't Toriko a big 3 shonen member?" You know?
Yeah.
So. And it would beat Naruto sometimes, and Naruto would beat it. And One Piece is generally number 1. But even then, I think sometimes Naruto is number 1. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They're all kind of vying for the top spot. I think Toriko at the moment has fallen in popularity just a little bit.
It's still so much fun.
It's great, but the anime was canceled, so I don't think it's doing great in terms of popular. It's good. It's doing really good, but it's just not as high as it once was. But Omar, damn it, it's like so hard to say for me. Omagadoki Dobutsuen. Yeah, it's not going to win in the first 20 chapters. It's not going to beat One Piece. It's just one.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to happen. I'm sorry. So what were you saying?
I'm just saying, like, once some of these more well-known series start to end, I think
they're going to need it too.
Yeah,
Shonen Jump's going to need bigger things.
It's going to need more series. So I think he hasn't done anything really recent, but once these series start ending, now he's got a chance. Now he's kind of incentive to try to put something out.
Yeah, well, I was worried after Barrage ended that he was just going to say fuck it and go try something new, but he left a little note on the last chapter about like, well, I can't wait to be back with the new series. I'm going to try again. You're going to see me again. So I hope that he keeps going.
Yeah.
He's so not a big name that it's kind of hard to find any information about him online. Like, I've seen very little. So I just hope he's coming up with something brilliant and we'll see him again. Or like our grand amazing idea, we'd love to see him come back to Zoo and do it online. Do a webcomic. Who gives a shit?
Hell, I would donate money to that.
Yeah, we would love to.
I want to see what it can become.
If only a proper ending, honestly. Like if only
that too.
Only just a good last arc of a couple, 20 chapters of a really good arc.
I think
it's so criminal when something doesn't even get an ending. It's so sad.
I kind of feel like I want him to finish the arc that he was on when it got canceled, and then do another arc if he does kind of like the I'm just gonna wrap it up or whatever. I don't want him to end it on the arc that it's currently on.
It just kills me that Fairy Tail's so popular.
That too.
But Zoo didn't make it. What the fuck?
Oh, it's so stupid.
What the fuck, Japan? Get your shit together.
I think
but Fairy Tail doesn't have the same competition either. It's a different magazine.
It's a completely different magazine.
So maybe he should look around, honestly. Like maybe Jump just isn't the place for him. Maybe he should go to I forget what Fairy Tail is. Is it Weekly Shonen? Or it's like it's just something called Shonen Weekly or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's like there's like Shonen Weekly, Weekly Gangan, Shonen Jump. There's a bunch of different ones.
Is Fairy Tail in the same magazine as Ippo? I think it is, isn't it?
I don't think so, actually.
Okay.
I would need to look it up, but I think it's in the same magazine as Kenichi.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's kind of a little known mangaka, and if you guys could support him and whatever his next series is, or look at the old stuff, he has so much talent. Like you could just feel the talent brimming with that guy. I really hope he makes another series, and it's awesome.
I just hope that he has a chance to actually complete something, to actually push something to where he can gain some momentum and kind of.
You'll be frustrated if you read Barrage, because it's not as good, but you still see the little things where you go, oh, that'll be interesting later on, and it never gets to happen.
Yeah.
It never gets to happen.
I just want him to be able to start a series and to be able to write it to completion.
That'd be great. And there's so many that make it. That's what I'm so frustrated about. So many series that are just so
mediocre.
Meh to me. Yeah, so mediocre, so middle of the road. So like I could leave it or take it. It's whatever. Like I don't care, And even series that are fucking bad. Like I don't understand how all these make it, and that fucking guy can't make something that makes the kids over in Japan like him. It's so weird.
I do have to say though, I know this has nothing to do with what we were just talking about, but I'm looking forward to watching the next episode of Fist of the North Star.
That is off topic, yes.
It is totally off topic, but I just thought it just popped in my head.
Is there a new series going on for Fist of the North Star, or are you just
I'm watching the old series,
okay.
dude.
Cool.
I know it's old and kind of cheesy at times, but it's so awesome.
Yeah,
so awesome.
I haven't experienced much of Fist of the North Star. I was
expecting the story to be a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of stale. Not really stale, but like kind of
sequential,
like repetitive.
Okay.
Like the story, and yeah, there's certain things that are repetitive that it repeats and stuff like that. But the characters have kind of a surprising level of like development, to where it's like, I was not expecting this.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I've never heard that. I've always heard kind of the opposite, that it's a fun series, but it's very much about people punching each other.
No, it's very much about fights.
Yeah.
But like I'm talking, like if we talk about like some of the main characters, like we look at Kenshiro, the main character, the successor to the Fist of the North Star, his brothers, the 6 stars of the South, or the 6 masters of the South Star, hit the love of his life that died, Yuria, her brother, I just saw that, I forgot his name, but yeah, there's like, if we're looking at those characters, they have a surprising level of development for what I was expecting.
That's interesting. I haven't read it. I think anybody who's a fan of shonen manga kind of is interested in those kinds of series. Like, they're sort of tucked away. Like, if you start out with Naruto and you start out with One Piece and Dragon Ball, like the big names, but then you kind of want to read Fist of the North Star and Knights of the Zodiac. You know what I mean? Like, you want to delve a little bit into like
the history of it and all that.
And almost like, what were the contemporaries for these other series, you know? Like,
yeah.
Like, I haven't read Slam Dunk, but apparently that was Dragon Ball's biggest competition for most of the time.
Whoa,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, and you know what? I love Vagabond, so I'm definitely interested in reading Inoue's other series, like Slam Dunk. So, I'm sure it'll be great. I just haven't read it yet. But it's fun to kind of like look at the contemporaries for the other series that you like. You know? So like, Rurouni Kenshin was running parallel to Yu Yu Hakusho or something. You know?
Yeah.
It's just fun to think about. Huh. I have not read Knights of the Zodiac, by the way. Like, I know I'm talking a lot of shit, but I'm just saying, like, you want to know a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, I love Knights of the Zodiac.
Yeah, you do.
I'm just gonna say, I love it. I know it's not the best, but it's still pretty.
I almost just like the
series.
art. Like, I kind of enjoy watching the evolution of shonen art, or art in manga in general. You know, it's fun. Like, if you look at Berserk, holy fuck, could you watch a guy become a master from, like, you know, sort of competent but dated art in the very early stuff to like now it's
amazing. Like,
now it's like, you got to put that in a museum. Like, it's so fucking beautiful what he's doing. It's incredible. So, you know, that's fun. That's fun for me. You know, I really like that. So we're going at 127 right now. We're almost at 90.
Holy crap.
Yeah, we've been going for a while. Should we go to our every arc ever list?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just do that real quick. We promised you guys like 3 podcasts ago that we'd talk about Drum.
So we are finally getting to the Drum Island arc.
Finally.
Which is a pretty great arc, if I'm being real.
It is pretty awesome.
What's our list? Like, we have 4 arcs that we've done so far, right?
We've done Paramount War,
which is at number 1.
Yeah, we did
Jaya,
which is at number 2. And the only 2 I can't think of off the top of my head, it's Bharati and Little Garden.
I'm pretty sure Bharati's number 3, because I fought for Bharati because it's an arc that I think is undervalued. I really like Bharati.
I think I might have been outvoted on that one. Yeah. So yeah. So I'll have to update the list if it's not like that. But
yeah, we'll update it on our Facebook. You guys can check it out. We are doing Drum. Do you want to talk about it, or you want me to talk about it?
We can just talk about the arc in general. Like, some of this has, I don't know. We're introduced to this arc, not necessarily in a unique way, say like Jaya, where we get like bam, ship falling from the sky or whatever.
Well, that's really emphatic. You know, even for One Piece's standards, that's like, holy shit, we're starting something new.
But as soon as we get to the island, there's almost a minimalistic beauty to the way that Drum appears.
Well, there's so much less inking because it's a snow island.
Yeah,
you know, it's majestic to me. Honestly, I almost wonder why he chose Drum, the setting of Drum and the Snow Island as like the small arc, and then Arabasta as like the big arc, because I think it's so much more compelling to look at the Snow Island than the Island of Sand. It makes sense storytelling wise, Crocodile of course.
Yeah, it makes a little more sense, but at the same time,
I just thought of what's her name? What's her name from Punk Hazard, the girl?
Snow Woman.
Yeah, shit. What's her name? I can't believe
Snowbird.
Can't believe I lost it. She could go to Drum and just tear shit apart.
Dude, that would be devastating.
I'm gonna look up her name.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there's other snow islands in that vein.
Probably, and probably much closer. I think Drum's pretty far away from Punk Hazard. Well, she's dead, so.
Yeah. One of the few that is probably actually dead.
Oh, Monet.
Yeah. So I was right. It started with an M.
It was an M, yes. I'm just saying, it's funny to me that she could kind of be what Crocodile was.
Yeah.
So in her element, where he's in Arabasta.
Dude, imagine if Crocodile had her ability, and it was just the other way around.
That would be... See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think there's something so majestic and beautiful about the Drum Island setting. I just love looking at it. It's one of the reasons I think this is so good, is that it looks beautiful. Always. It always looks beautiful.
It does, yeah.
So, I'm sorry, go on. I think I might have interrupted you.
Oh, no. I made my point, and we just expanded on that point, which was that when we're introduced to it, it's just this minimalistic beauty. We see some detail to, like, the trees and the landscape, but we just see these towering drum-shaped mountains or whatever, capped in snow. We get a little bit of a hint at the castle on top of the tallest peak, stuff like that, and it just looks beautiful.
Well, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, in my opinion. If we're talking about strengths and weaknesses, to me, one of the absolute strengths of this arc is the flashback. It's one of the most incredibly dramatic and tragic and beautiful flashbacks in the entire series. And in terms of characters that are isolated to a flashback, Dr. Hirolook is absolutely one of my favorites. I mean, he's so much fun, and you love him so quickly, and it's so sad to see him go. And
tragic.
And his goodbye speech is one of the most beautiful things in the entire series by a mile. It's so beautiful. If you're talking about like things that'll make you tear up, that in the anime is just so good and so sad. It's so beautiful.
Yep.
And his relationship with Chopper is great. I mean, holy shit, is that flashback amazing. It's so good.
Another thing I think that we could point out is that it's the first time we see Zoans.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know what? We were kind of flipping through my volumes just to kind of get an idea of what we want to talk about. I never thought about that. I never really thought, like, whoa, we're, like, introduced to Zoan, just the concept.
Yeah.
Like, Oda's expanding the idea of devil fruits here.
Yeah, and it's not an insignificant reveal either. He goes panel by panel the first time that Dalton transforms. So it's not like, oh, we see him and suddenly he's an ox or whatever, and that's just part of his ability. No, he went out of his way to show that transformation.
And as you noted, he was a mode of an ox fruit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Modes
were already part of the functionality of the Zone Devil Fruit.
Yeah, it was ox fruit mode. What was it? Bison?
I think it was Bison.
Yeah, mode Bison.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Which kind of gives me this hope that Chopper's human fruit is just a mode.
I think it is.
Because I don't think it specifies though. I think it just
so he would be a typical human. So there could be like zones for like the long arm tribe or the long leg tribe or whatever the hell Moria is.
Giants, stuff like that. Dude, imagine Luffy getting another fruit similar to like Blackbeard, and it's human mode giant.
Well, I think you're the only one pushing for Luffy getting another fruit.
I'm just saying, because he's already trying to turn into a giant, and you made this point previously. It almost seems like Luffy at some point might become a giant. And if that's how it ends up happening...
That's true. I mean, Oda said, or I think Oda said that you will explode if you have another devil fruit, like you eat a second, but it'd be kind of hard to make Luffy explode. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like we have, you know, Blackbeard's unique body and stuff like that, but his devil fruit also kind of is the antithesis to explosions.
Yeah, that's the idea, but man, we don't know yet. Like we don't really know what it is with Blackbeard.
So there's that, but if that is kind of the logic and the idea behind it, and Luffy got that, and he just exploded, he would just grow more.
Okay, so other great things about Drum. A little note to make is that I think we meet Ace here. It's the first time we see Ace for the first time, which is, we don't know that he's Luffy's brother. Does he mention sort of like, I think he mentioned something like, I'm looking for my brother, but I don't think we know it's Luffy yet. I don't think we know that until Arabasta.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're introduced to the idea of Blackbeard. We don't see him or anything of that nature.
He's the reason that Wapol fled and all that.
Wapol, also, underrated villain. He's a lot of fun. He's very, like, he'll give you legitimate laughs. Like, he's really funny. He isn't threatening in any way, but we kind of need him to not be, because this saga, this arc is part of a bigger saga, which is all about Crocodile. We can't have a major villain in between, building the tension between the Straw Hats and Crocodile, the Baroque Works agents. So, Wapol does his place, he does what he needs to do, and he's fucking funny. Like, we were looking at these panels where he's trying to blow Luffy away with the cannon, and his eyes get all big, and there's supposed to be tension, but he just and then just like a bird flies out of the cannon, like he doesn't like and he eats himself to become skinnier. Like, motherfucker is hilarious. He's really funny. So
it's very unique.
Yeah, it's a weird devil fruit. It's really strange.
Where exactly did we meet, or are we shown images of Ace?
You know what? We were flipping through the volumes. I'm not sure. It's
because I feel like it was later on.
It might have been.
Probably in 17. But oh man, we get this idea that the world government isn't just, you know, the one world government, but that it's kind of an alliance, an allegiance of multiple nations. Multiple countries.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing that you noted down, that it's the first time we get the real idea that the idea of a government is bigger than just island to island almost, you know, and that's become such a major part of the series. Drum is important because Oda incorporated ideas that have been expanded on in a lot of ways. Like, Blackbeard clearly is a huge, huge deal.
Yeah.
Like, what happens during the Paramount War, which is volumes 57 through 59, I believe, in that area, it starts on Drum. Like, that's crazy. That's such a great piece of storytelling from Oda. That's fucking amazing, I think. I've always liked Dr. Kureha. I always think she knows more than she lets on. Of course, we're introduced to Chopper, which
of course she knows a lot more,
which we haven't even mentioned yet.
Okay,
we're introduced to Chopper.
Okay, he's introduced in 154 Aces, and it's after the Straw Hats have already left. It's a discussion between Dalton and Kureha.
Okay. Wasn't there something like, he foreshadows his power too. They say like, there was no rain when he came, or there was no snow. Something, right? That's awesome. Like, that's really cool little foreshadowing for who Ace is.
Yeah, so we get that. There's none of that or whatever. We're also hinted at the fact that he doesn't pay for his food.
I don't think it's a hint. I think he just runs away.
Yeah. Hey, catch that guy. He didn't pay for his food. Huh? Whoops, thanks. Yeah.
The accumulation of Dr. Hirolook's studying to finally the realization of his dream is a beautiful moment too.
Yeah.
Where
he finally gets the cherry blossoms to bloom.
Yeah, and Chopper's crying, and Dr. Kureha calls Chopper her son, and I mean, those are his surrogate parents. They're so weird. Like, you need these two incredibly bizarre people to make a Chopper, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that. So in terms of short arcs that are about 2.5 volumes, it's up there. It's up there with the very, very best, in my opinion.
It's about 3.
And so is Jaya, honestly. So it's going to be tough. I don't think we could really compare it to Paramount War. Like, would you agree that Paramount War deserves to be number 1 still here?
I'm pretty sure Paramount War still deserves to be number 1 because it's
so important.
It's so important to the series.
And it's so much fun. Like, there's so much craziness.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think we've talked about this before, and a lot of people like to detract from it and say it doesn't really keep with some of the themes of One Piece. But, okay, that's a little off topic.
Surrogate crew.
So it had a surrogate crew, and again we've talked
and
about
Buggy.
one of the major themes of One Piece that they're not mentioning is the struggle to protect those you care about.
Yeah,
so,
which is one of the themes that were shown
in Drum. Yeah,
Chopper struggles to find this cure for Hirlook, and it turns out to be a poison that kind of speeds up his death. But he
kills himself.
Yeah,
he kills himself trying to save his son.
Yeah,
so it didn't kill him. He wouldn't let it kill him. He wouldn't let Chopper be responsible for his death anyway.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's such a. To me, it's
like
that.
But it's one of those things. It's the extent that you go to save someone. Chopper went through all these trials and tribulations. He hurt himself. He was injured, and he still came back with what he thought was a cure. And ultimately, it was a failure. And Paramount War, it's kind of the same thing. Luffy's going through all of this.
That's a really fascinating parallel. I've never made that. Honestly.
Luffy's going through all of this work struggle
to save someone that he cares about. The only difference is it's not a flashback. It's happening real time.
Yeah, a lot of the big tragedies in One Piece are flashbacks. That was a tragedy in the story arc at the moment, which was...
It was basically an in-the-moment type thing, present moment.
And multiple tragedies, in my opinion, because you definitely love Blackbeard.
Yeah.
You fall in love with Whitebeard. If you don't, you're stop reading One Piece. So multiple tragedies. I mean, even the tragedy within the tragedy. Of course, Ace dying, Luffy holding him, that's a tragedy. Whitebeard having to see that is a tragedy. Like
exactly.
You know, that you can
Whitebeard
feel
just
that.
lost a son. He sees the brother of one of his children break, weeping for him.
Man. So yeah, I think we could agree it's not number one. But here's where it gets iffy to me, because Jaya is about as strong a short arc as we have, but so is Drum. They're comparable in terms of quality, in my opinion. So how do you feel? Which way do you lean? And tell me why.
I don't know, man. This one's hard because
it's really hard.
Because on one hand we get a brief mention of Blackbeard. We're introduced to the idea of Ace. We meet Blackbeard and Jaya.
and his crew, his commanders.
Drum has this amazing speech by Hirlook. Jaya has this amazing speech by Blackbeard.
Yeah.
We see this kind of minimalistic beauty in the island itself of Drum, and then we see kind of this more...
It's like a rural charm, almost.
Yeah.
It's like...
we see the village, we see the more...
It's one of the most pirate things
in
One Piece, the mock town.
It's kind of very thematic to the series.
Yeah. And Bellamy's and his crew are also very pirate-like. And of course the introduction of Doflamingo and Kuma, like, those are huge deals.
Those two are they're very important characters later on as well. Like Ace...
And so is Norland. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah.
Jaya... It might be more... It's like I almost want to say it's more important than Drum, but almost solely because we meet Chopper. That's a huge deal. That's a really huge deal.
Here's the thing. We look at Jaya. Jaya has more importance to it, almost. But Drum has more... kind of more emotion.
I would agree there. I think it's more charming, too, myself.
So...
And if we're boiling it down to which arc would I want to reread right this moment, it would be Drum.
It would probably... Yeah, it would have to be Drum. Because the part that I like about Jaya... What I like about Jaya isn't necessarily Jaya, but what it leads up to. So
I was actually going to bring up that point right now. That Jaya functions so incredibly as an arc that leads to a big arc. Where...
As Drum is
almost similar, but it's isolated as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to read Arabasta to enjoy Drum. Drum has its villain. Drum has its story. Drum, it's encompassing within itself. It's
right.
It's episodic while still being part of a major arc.
Yeah. Whereas Jaya, you need to read you kind of need to read it in sequence. Jaya, then Skypia. They build upon each other,
and almost to get the emotional payoff.
Yeah.
Because seeing Cricket know that the Straw Hats made it, and they
hear the bell. Yeah.
And we get the flashback in Volume 32. Like, all that is super integral to caring about that story.
Yeah.
So Jaya's great. It's great because of other things as well. It's great because it builds in to...
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're both leaning...
so I think I might have to say that Drum is better than Jaya at this moment.
I would agree. And I mean, like Baraki, I almost think Drum is a little underrated. Like, I love Drum. It's one of my favorites.
I think
so
it's
definitely
just
have
that
a
we've
bias.
seen too much of it.
Which one?
Of
Drum,
similar to how we've seen a lot of Alabasta.
Well, no, what I'm saying is I love Drum.
No, I know. I'm not saying that
Okay.
I don't love it. I'm just saying, commenting on your thing, how it's kind of underrated.
Yeah.
It's almost more that it's underrated because we've seen it more than some of the other arcs.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so we're placing it at 2 right now, right below the Paramount War.
Right below Paramount War,
right
above Jaya. Yeah.
I think that's fair, and it's a great arc. It deserves to have a really good place on this list when it's all said and done. We didn't talk about any weaknesses. Maybe we should. The characters below Wapol...
his henchmen were
his
a little
henchmen,
forgettable. I honestly forgot about them up until just prior to the podcast.
They were a little bit of throwaway characters. I mean, they were fun for what they were, but that's it. Oh, actually, the one, I forget his name. He was the...
yeah. Oh, he shoots Dalton. I forgot about that.
Well, I like him because just the visual of when we first see him, he's just standing in the water, and I always thought that was cool. Like, it just looks really cool. So, they're weak characters, kind of, but because the arc is sort of small, we don't really need them to be super strong. Like,
yeah.
It's not a fucking 6-volume arc, so they're good for what they are.
Yeah. But yeah, I need to mention that. He also shot Dalton with what should have normally been a fatal injury.
Yeah, it was bad.
And we're kind of introduced to this idea that people can withstand more than you think, and that Zoans are a lot more resilient than...
Yeah.
It's not really explicitly stated that they're more resilient or more powerful and stuff like that, but it's kind of our first visual implication that that's the case.
But within One Piece, people live through crazy things anyway.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there's zones. So it's sort of like double.
Yeah.
A couple other things we didn't mention: the Lapons, is that their names? The giant
rabbits.
The giant rabbit
when Luffy
bears.
pulls it out.
Yeah, that was an emotional little moment too. Like there was a lot of those. Luffy climbing the giant mountain,
hands bleeding and everything from frostbite.
He's got Sanji in his mouth and Nami on his back because she's dying from an illness. Like holy shit, there's a lot of heavy things going on here. You're right. It's really emotional. Like, almost at every turn, it's really emotional. We didn't mention the beautiful imagery of Luffy holding up Hiriluk's flag.
That was an amazing scene.
When Wapol tried to blow it away. And he was like, somebody's flying this flag for a reason. This is an important thing. It was beautiful.
And he gets shot or whatever. He's like, see, you still couldn't break it.
Yeah.
Even, like, the bottom of the pole is missing. Where it was attached is missing, but Luffy's still holding it.
Yeah. So
the flag is still flying.
There isn't a lot of weaknesses. Wapol's henchman, and even Wapol to himself in a way, isn't the most compelling villain. So maybe those are some of the weaknesses, but there's so much other great stuff.
Yeah,
so much other great stuff. And I almost think it's a needed break from the idea of the Baroque works and all that stuff going on, because it started way back in Twin Capes, and it leads all the way into the end of Arabasta. Right. So it's nice to have a little break there.
And it ties in really well too, especially Vivi's interactions with Dalton.
Oh yeah.
The whole idea that like Dalton's crying because like what's wrong with having a kingdom with a heart or whatever, or government with a heart.
Yeah, and he noticed that she's a brilliant leader by nature. Like she was a strong leader as a little girl. Yeah, that was important. You're right. So what a great arc. It deserves to be number 2 at the moment. I think I'm happy we agree there. Do you want to pick out of the hat for next week's arc?
Alrighty. If it's a small enough arc, we'll pick another one too.
Okay, I'm down with that.
Let's see. Number 1 is Amazon Lily. I think we need to pick another one.
Okay, I'll pick it. So Amazon Lily, we're doing that. It's not going to beat Drum, I'm telling you that right now. But there's a lot of boobies in that arc, so let's go to the pros right now. There's some boobies. Barati. Did we do Barati? Okay.
Yeah, we did do Barati.
Okay, yeah, this hat it has all kinds of crazy arcs in it. We've done already. Whiskey Peak. So 2. Okay.
Yeah, 2 relatively small arcs.
Two decent sized arcs. I like that.
So yeah.
Okay, I'm down. Okay, so next week we will be doing Amazon Lily and Whiskey Peak. That's awesome. That's going to be fun.
All right.
Should we sign off?
I think we should, yeah.
Okay, everybody. My name is Alex.
My name is Robert.
We are your Mugiwara Authority. Please check us out on Facebook. All that stuff. We have it all. You know what? When we've been a little inconsistent the last couple of weeks, we'll be back. We're here for you. We love you all. Okay, well, take care.
Alrighty, see you guys.
Bye.